Oh, my name is Samuel. I'm a first year at Sauter School of Business. With $1 million, I'll buy a nice car.
Hey, my name is Divya and I'm a fourth year at UBC, and with $1 million, I'd go to Bora Bora. Hey Div, catch!
Hi, my name is Divyan. I'm in third year at UBC. And if I had $1 million, I would have an infinite supply of donuts. Welcome to workshop number 3, financial literacy. Alright, so here's what we have in store for you today. We're going to start with an introduction and then go into an icebreaker. We're going to be talking about what is money, move on to business finance, personal finance, and finally we're going to get into some activities.
You may be wondering, why is financial literacy important? Having a strong understanding is important regardless of your job, because everyone has a relationship with money. So here at Enspire, we want to set you off on the right foot. The best way to stay financially healthy is to be aware of how much money you have available and how much expenses you have. But Divya, what are expenses anyways?
Expenses are needs, such as food and clothing. They also include wants, like a new phone. But we'll get into this more later.
Before we start, we're going to do a quick icebreaker activity, since today is all about money management. What would you do if you won the lottery and suddenly had $1 million? Pause the video and discuss with your class.
Now, what exactly is money? Well, money is anything that serves as a medium of exchange, meaning it's accepted as a form of payment, like cash. What's interesting is that cash itself holds no inherent value. It's the value that people place on it. For example, if people began to accept apples as payment, apples would now be considered money as opposed to cash.
For the sake of simplicity, we've categorized money into 4 different categories: borrowing, spending, saving, or investing. Starting with borrowing, this is when a person or business is lent money, usually by the bank. Next up, we have spending. People in businesses spend money on what they need and want, but we'll get into this more later.
Now let's talk about saving. So saving is when a business or an individual plans to save money for a larger capital investment. And this can be buying a new office, or it can also be buying nicer equipment. Our last principle is investing. And investing is a way to have your money work for you. So investing is when businesses or individuals invest money in order to create or raise money over time.
Now let's break down 2 different bank accounts you've probably already heard of: a checking and savings account. A checking account is like a pocket where you keep your money for saving. A savings account is like a type of bank account where you can store money safely and earn interest. What's interest? Interest is extra money the bank pays you to maintain the balance in your bank account.
All right, so the time value of money is a concept that states that money available now is worth more than the same amount of money in the future. And that's due to potential earning capacity and inflation. Now pause the video and discuss with your class. Would you rather receive $1,000 today or sometime in the future, and why? One key reason why $1,000 today is more beneficial than the same amount in the future is inflation. Inflation refers to the general increase in prices and the fall in purchasing power of money over time. In simple terms, a dollar can usually buy more today than it can in the future because things tend to get more expensive. This means that if you have $1,000 today, you can purchase more with it now than you could in a few years when prices have likely risen.
The stock market is a system where investors buy and sell shares of a company, which fluctuates based on supply, demand, and economic factors. Shares represent a form of ownership of a company, giving shareholders a stake in its profits, usually through dividends, and voting rights on important issues such as electing board members. Now, let's talk about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is a value of the next best option you give up when making a choice. It's important in decision making as it considers what you could have gained by choosing differently, affecting money, growth, and personal satisfaction. For instance, if you decide to spend money on a vacation, the opportunity cost is what you could have gained if you had invested that money or used it for other expenses or savings. Instead, maybe you could have saved this money for your post-secondary education. Similarly, in the business context, if a company allocates resources to one project, the opportunity cost is the potential benefits it could have reaped from investing those resources in a different project.
There are many other items that increase in value over time and are considered investments. Think about high-end jewelry, designer bags, and fine art. For example, Hermes Birkin bags are one of the most profitable investments. In the 1950s, these bags cost around $900, but now that same bag is worth $10,000. Isn't it crazy how much value can increase over time? There are even some bags that are reached resale values of over $500,000. All that money just from keeping a bag in your closet. This is the exact reasoning behind investing. It is making money in your sleep.
Alright, so now let's look at two really important terms, and that's business finance and personal finance. So business finance deals with managing money and planning for the financial needs of a company, which includes focusing on investments, profits, and growth strategies.
Personal finance, on the other hand, involves managing an individual's budget, savings, and investments, concentrating on achieving personal financial goals, like buying a house or saving for retirement. Now let's go over some business financial topics. We're going to be going over stakeholders, shareholders, and scarcity. A stakeholder is anyone who can affect or be affected by an organization's decisions, like employees, customers, investors, or the community. A shareholder is a person who owns shares in a company, giving them rights to ownership and often a right to vote in company decisions.
Now the final topic is scarcity, and scarcity refers to the limited availability of resources, meaning that there's not enough to satisfy everyone's wants and needs. Did you know that companies actually have two main sources of funding, and that's internal and external funding? So businesses fund internally through reinvested profits, owners' savings, and retained earnings, all of which support the business's external growth without financial assistance.
External business funding is obtained through sources outside the company, like bank loans, government grants, and crowdfunding, providing support for business operations. Business finance is important because it prevents a company from shutting down and ensures everyday operations run smoothly. Just remember this simple equation. Profit equals revenue minus expenses. Revenue is the total amount of money received by selling goods.
Whereas costs are expenses used up when generating revenue, including costs for materials, costs for staff wages, or even rent, equipment, and Wi-Fi.
Businesses face difficult decisions on what to spend their money on every day, just like us. For example, have you ever gotten money for your birthday and not known whether to spend it on new clothes or a new game?
Businesses also have to consider the best way to spend their money, and that can be on products and services, maybe market research, or training for their employees. Now think back to opportunity costs. Let's say a business is choosing between investing in a marketing campaign or increasing the quality of product. So we ask the question, what other major decisions do businesses make?
Now that we've gone over business finance, let's get into personal finance, which is all about how individuals spend their money.
Remember when we mentioned expenses? Well, expenses are actually needs, such as food and clothing. However, they also include wants, such as a new phone. Being able to tell the difference between wants and needs will help you manage your expenses when you get your first job. We'll go over some more wants and needs in the next activity.
Wants refer to those things that we desire to have but are not essential for our survival. These are often driven by personal preferences, societal influences, or a quest for improved quality of life. Examples include luxury items, entertainment, and high-end technology. Wants add comfort, convenience, and pleasure to our lives, but we can exist without them. Needs, on the other hand, are basic requirements necessary for sustaining life and ensuring well-being. They are universal and fundamental, including aspects like nutritious food, clean water, safe shelter, and appropriate clothing. Needs also encompass emotional and psychological aspects such as love, security, and education. These are non-negotiable for maintaining health, safety, and basic functioning in society.
Let's work through a few examples of the needs versus wants activity. For each of the examples, I will give you a brief moment to say the answer out loud before I tell you whether it's a want or a need. Starting with an easy one. Shelter. Is a shelter a want or a need? Well, shelter is a need because you cannot live without it, meaning that it should go under the needs category. Now let's try a trickier one. Is a dog a want or a need? Even though dogs bring companionship and increase mood, do we really need dogs to survive? No. So unless you have a service or assistance dog, dogs would go under the wants category. Now let's think about a Nintendo Switch. Is a Nintendo Switch a want or a need? Even though Nintendo Switches are lots of fun and are a great investment, they are not necessary for our survival, making this a want instead of a need. Now, is water a want or a need? Did you know that humans can only go 3 days without water, meaning that water is definitely a need for survival? For our last example, we have food. Is this a want or a need? Humans can't go without food for more than 3 weeks, meaning that food is essential to our survival. Food is then a need. A common savings rule for budgeting is the 50-30-20 rule, which suggests allocating 50% of your income to necessities like rent and groceries, 30% to wants like entertainment and dining out, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. This helps in creating a balanced budget while ensuring consistent savings. Now let's look at the December Learning Challenge, which is launching your very own VR business. There is a huge opportunity for businesses to jump in the game and make massive profit by developing and selling new virtual reality games to customers. For your December Learning Challenge, imagine you're an entrepreneur who's about to launch a brand new virtual reality headset. However, it's not as simple as placing your product in stores and waiting for it to sell. What financial decisions do you need to make to ensure that you can make money on your new product? Think of all you've learned this month about costs and revenue. For this month's learning challenge, you'll put your skills to the test and see what impact business decisions can have on profit. Using the template available on our website, you will make 5 financial decisions for your VR business. Be careful to follow the instructions in the template and only type in the yellow boxes as instructed. If you do not follow these instructions, it may break the template and you will need to start over. You can see a summary of your results on the Results and Questions page. Make sure you finalize your decisions and that you have no error or #value messages. Once you have completed all of your decisions, answer the 4 big think questions on the first page and the final question on the second page by typing in the yellow boxes. That's all for the December Learning Challenge. We hope you enjoy this one.